Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar on delivering secure online exams. I'm joined today by Kelly Touchstone, who is my colleague at OpenStax. Kelly is the special assistant to our managing director and works really closely with our leadership team. I'm Courtney Raymond, and I'm the marketing manager here at OpenStax. And then we're joined by our partners at Lyryx Learning. Lyryx has been enabled delivering online exams for quite some time now, but that's become really of interest right now as many of you have had to transition to online or hybrid versions of instruction. And so we're going to hear from them. Interestingly, Claude Laflamme here is the president at Lyryx Learning, but is also an educator. So he is a professor of math at the University of Calgary, and so has firsthand experience with making that transition to online this spring. He started this project 20 years ago to help students and instructors, and they've been in the open content space for about 10 years now. And we also have Tamzin Murnahan here from Lyryx, who is the managing director, and she handles all client relations and is all around a pleasant person to be around. So I'm excited for you guys to hear from all of these people. Just so you know, you were entered on mute because we have quite a few people registered today, but we do want to hear from you. So you should see a questions section in your GoToWebinar control panel. Please do enter your questions throughout the webinar. We'll be keeping an eye out on those, and we're going to save some time at the very end for Q&A. So feel free to put in your questions, whether it be about OpenStax content or about what you're hearing from Lyryx. And we will get to as many of those as we can in the last portion of the webinar. And with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Kelly to talk a little bit about OpenStax.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Kelly and I work at OpenStax, and I'm going to start us off by giving an overview of our organization, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what I do specifically at OpenStax. So we are a nonprofit initiative of Rice University, and we started in 2012. We do three main things. We publish textbooks. The digital version of our books are free for anyone, anywhere. And we also create learning software and conduct learning research. Here's a little bit more about us by the numbers. We are currently serving 3.8 million students this school year. We have served 14 million students since 2012. We are in 60% of institutions in the US are using an OpenStax textbook, and we currently have 41 titles in our library. We also have 36,000 instructors assigning OpenStax textbooks. And we also recently hit a really big metric of $1.2 billion in student savings since 2012. So we're really excited about that. Here is a list of our titles in our library. All of our textbooks are high quality and peer reviewed. There's digital versions, like I told you, that are free for anyone, anywhere, and we also have print options. And we recently worked with another partner to get our books into an app for free as well. As you can see, most of our titles are college level, and we are moving into high school and K-12 as well.
Kelly, would you mind moving your window up a little bit where you're cutting off the bottom of your screen?
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, I hope you saw the stuff before.
It was good, yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Courtney. All right, you guys can take a screenshot of that now that you can see all the books, and you can also ask us questions at the end if you'd like. All right, we really appreciate our partners. So we partner with learning technology companies that we call OpenStax allies, and Lyryx is one of our partners and an OpenStax ally. Our allies provide low-cost, high-value options to support instructors and students, and our OpenStax allies enrich our material and provide support to keep our books current and accessible. So Lyryx utilizes our content in their platform, and then they pay us a mission support fee, which we then use to help keep our books and our content current and up to date. So a little bit more about my role at OpenStax. I've been working with OpenStax for 2 years. Before this, I was a high school educator for about a decade. And while I miss the classroom, I love working at OpenStax because I get to help so many more instructors and students. And my title is Special Assistant to the Managing Director. So I work really closely with the leadership team and I provide specialized support to the Managing Director. I also guide internal communications and I track and support big picture items like organizational wide goals and mission and vision and values. So our mission is to improve educational access and learning for everyone. Our mission is big and bold, and I get excited about work every day knowing that I'm contributing to improving access and learning for everyone. So it's pretty cool. And our vision, OpenStax envisions a world where anyone can learn anything without restriction. And these are our organizational values. These guide everything that we do internally and externally as an organization. We have a fun little acronym that our managing director created called CORE to the M. And so the C is clear, open, and honest. We're also obsessed with listening, research-driven, entrepreneurial, and mission-driven. And these are a couple of our big goals that we set last year that we're working on this year. Along with our mission of improving access, we're wanting to grow our textbook library. And something exciting is we recently received funding to almost double our library, which is pretty cool. And with our other component of our mission of improving learning, we want to increase engagement with our resources. So within our reading experience this year, we've created features like highlighting and note-taking that then will improve the learning experience for our users. We also, along with improving access, we launched our app last year. So our books are available for free on any mobile device as well. And that's it from me with my About OpenStax overview. Thank you guys for listening and learning. And I'm now going to pass it to Lyryx. And like Courtney said, if you have any questions for me, you can ask them at the end. Thanks.
So both Claude and I are going to take on this. I'm just going to start off and then pass it over to Claude, who will take over. Ultimately, Lyryx, as Kelly mentioned, we're an OpenStax ally and have been for a few years now. We work with open content and we create online homework for it. And we've actually been creating online homework for over 20 years and certainly see ourselves as experts at it. We develop more formative assessment as opposed to summative, and we're really focused on assisting students in learning content as opposed to just assessing their learning. This particular webinar is obviously about exams, so we are talking about more summative assessment, but we've actually been providing the ability to give exams on Lyryx for the same amount of time as we've been providing homework. So when things went by the wayside a little bit, or not by the wayside, but just a big pivot in terms of learning for spring 2020, where higher education is essentially moved exclusively online, not to mention other levels of education, we certainly saw that instructors all over the world were changing the way that they delivered their course in a very rapid time frame. And overall, we saw firsthand that instructors were having to re-examine and reimagine the way that things have been done and find ways to help their students maintain a level of learning, not to mention get them through a semester that was already in place. You'll notice there's a couple of education specialists here talking about how the coronavirus outbreak challenged long-held notions of when, where, and how we deliver education, as well as the role of colleges and universities. Dr. Kim says online education will be recognized as core to every school's plan for institutional resilience and academic continuity. We really liked these because they talked about online learning in sort of as a grand notion, which when you drill it down to delivering a course, it doesn't sound quite as grand, but overall, we foresee that this will now be an integral part of all organizational, institutional planning for institutions. So basically, now I want to introduce Dr. Claude Laflamme, who, as Courtney mentioned, is a professor at the University of Calgary. That's where we're based, where Lyryx is based. We're in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. He's been a professor for, I won't say just how many years, but he is definitely a veteran. And last semester, while pivoting to online learning for what I believe is the first time for him, even despite being with Lyryx as long as he has, there were 1,000 students in the spring semester that he pivoted over and used Lyryx for his midterms and his finals as well, and plans to do so for his 1,500 students this fall. At that point, I will turn it over to him so he can talk to you about his online exam experience.
Thank you very much, Tamzin and Courtney and Kelly. And welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Yes, so I'm Claude Laflamme, and I've been a faculty member at the University of Calgary. We started the Lyryx project about 20 years ago to develop a quality and affordable educational software, and our mission aligns very well with that of OpenStax, so it's a pleasure to be an ally. This afternoon, I will talk about the online examinations. I think that's where you're all here for. It will be a relatively short presentation, and we'll be open for questions afterward. So there's three main things that I want to talk about. It's why online examinations and a little bit what they can look like. And then I want to talk about a little bit of the tools that are needed online to conduct an examination. And all along, I will talk about academic integrity. This is one of the main worry that we have as faculty members. How could we possibly do this online? And I will actually come back at the end and talk about this a little bit more in detail. Okay, so I think you pretty much know some of the benefits and drawbacks of online exam. They are extremely flexible and accessible, so it provides us tools to offer our online exams. In a sense, we have no choice these days, but there's no more classroom limitations. The students can find a convenient place to do their exam without disturbances. And of course, there's an instant grading, as we say in the US, or marking, as we say in Canada. And then detailed feedback. This is something I wanted to use my my pointer, and I will give you a red color. There we go. Okay, so this detailed feedback over here, it's important. I think the students deserve it. Is that not only they will get a mark, but they want to see exactly what they did right and wrong. This is what we have in the Lyryx system. Most of what I will talk this afternoon is good for any system of any online examinations. But again, look for that. Certain things are important. Another benefit is scalability. We are doing exams right now with over 1,000 students, something that is extremely administrative intensive in the old days. Of course, we save paper and many other advantages, but we have to be aware of the drawbacks. Technology is there. In the old days, if student forgot their pencil, well, we can find one around. That's easy to do. But if their connectivity is not there, they don't have the equipment, that's a drawback for the student. It requires also special skills from the student point of view, or different skills, maybe I should say. It's self-motivation is one of them. Okay, so and there's others. Okay, so that's the overview of the online exam. I just now wanted to give you some idea of what an online exam could look like. One of the important messages that I will pass is that the type of questions that we ask is crucial. I think I could easily convince you that if you ask the students calculate 2 plus 5, immediately the students will reach for their calculator, or if not, Google it, and they will answer 7 without thinking, without knowing anything, and this is not what we want to do. We really want to assess the students into their understanding of the concepts of the class, okay? So that's a little bit of a summative assessment, but it's quite high level, is what we're after. So I don't know if there's some accountants among you, but we partner with OpenStax with their accounting products, their calculus product, and also statistics. So I will show you the 3 examples. But in this case, the students often have to fill a financial statement. This is a standard in accounting. Now, if you look at this question, look at this trial balance and tell me what's wrong with it. So it's spinning the question around, and it requires a certain understanding from the student that they have acquired by doing their work during the term. So this is the kind of questions that might be more appropriate for a final exam. Note at the bottom also that we have the marking is there. Okay, so the students have completed that. So this is the marking or the grading the students have received, and the system noticed that you've lost an account. You've forgotten to mark an account that should not have been there. The second part is not only that you have to identify what's wrong, but you have to fix it. Okay, so that's the second level. So you see the questions is what entry is required to fix the error. Okay, so it's right here at the top. And then the students try to do that, and then the marking as comments for the students, what they did right and what they did not so well. You forgot the rent earned. Okay, so that will cost you 2 marks. You have the wrong amount for the amount debited on the return earnings. So there's feedback there provided for the students, which is very much along what all of you experienced instructors would do with the students. Here's one in calculus for those of you in math. It's a very simple question. It's just a simple Riemann sum about evaluating or approximating the integral. And the point here is that the technique to do this requires some planning, some good organization, and even a little bit of computing skills altogether. And you throw that to the students suddenly, and they have to put it together on the spot. Okay? Very hard to Google the answer to those questions. That's the kind we're looking for. Here's another one in calculus. You have a sequence of that form at the top, and if this is the first time that you see that, it's scary for the student. Okay, but with the experience of if they've done their work during the term, they will realize that, oh yes, is this sequence increasing or decreasing? Well, they will see that this -1 to the exponent is actually provides an alternating sequence, and therefore the students correctly answered it is neither increasing nor decreasing, and the grading is correct. Okay, bravo, my student, you got it correct. The next question is this sequence bounded? And the key here is just to look at. This question has nothing to compute. It's just about observing the pattern of the sequence, and with some experience, the students can see, oh yeah, it's n over n to the 8. The exponents is much bigger at the bottom, therefore it has to be bounded. And the students miss that one, and you can see that there's some good feedback to the students in the grading. I have one more in statistics as promised. This question is a typical story about samples. The question is asking the students to compute a couple of values. The students does that correctly, on, and then suddenly the question at the end is, what can we conclude? Which means put this data together that you've computed and make an intelligent decision about your data. Again, that's a little bit of the mastering the concepts type of question that is appropriate to ask. So I threw this together a little bit. Best practices for online exam. The type of question is crucial. That's, I think, the key message that I want to pass today. Second one is openly allow course material. Well, there's nothing you can do to hide it, okay? Unless you decide to go with an online proctoring system that will have full of cameras and system to watch your students do the exam, there's nothing you can do. For most of us, going for those online proctors is not an option. This is not what we want to do. To some degree, we have to put a little trust in our students, and we have to educate them about academic integrity. And as I said, I will come back to this. Be fair to your students. Give them enough time. It takes a little bit of more time to get organized online. The students have to log in. They forgot their password. The machine doesn't work. There's an update. Okay, so they have to get going. So think about the amount of time it will take them. For the same reason, allow an open window. What I suggest here and what I'm thinking is, if you have a 2-hour exam, tell them it's between 3 and 6. And maybe you say you have half an hour to get started. It's not like in the classroom or in the gym where they all show up at 3 o'clock and they're ready to start. They have the paper in front of them. No, give them about, I say half an hour, maybe 15 minutes is enough, but something that is fair. Aim at several lower stake exams. Instead of one final exam that is worth 80% of your grade, then maybe you want to do several exams along the semester. Maybe it's one midterm, maybe it's more. I'm doing 3 right now. And what it allows me to do is each one is worth 25%. Okay, and it allows me to adjust along the semester. Is the first one too hard, too easy? The students also, of course, are nervous about the first one. They get better in the second one. And without so much pressure, there are less incentive to cheat. In that same vein, also make a practice test. It doesn't count for marks, but it allows the students to get in the system, find the buttons, find how it works, and practice it maybe in a 2-hour practice exam. Those are the main items. Okay. A little comment at the bottom: course requirements. Technology will not solve all the problems of this planet. They're good at certain things. Use them for what they're good at. Okay, so it's like everything. The technology in the kitchen is the same thing. You use it for what they're good at, not otherwise. But it depends on your course. It depends on your students. It depends what you're trying to achieve in your course. So I don't have an answer for this right now, but all of us have to think, what is the best way to use the technology in our classes? And if you need, my last item there is think about complementary assessment techniques. Maybe you want a discussion question on top of the technology that you will be marking by hand. Maybe you ask the students to submit their work to the online exam, just so that you see what they're doing behind the scene. Maybe you want you have a small class is small enough, you want to do a Zoom interview, ask them a couple of questions about what they really think. So that could be useful in your course. Okay, so those are the main things. I will now pass to the tools that you would need to do this. It's pretty standard. I think all of you would come up with the same list. You need the ability to set a start and an end date, of course, for your exam. You set the duration, how long your exam is going to last. Official clock is something that you need so that we all agree that when the exam ends at 5 o'clock, we all agree what 5 o'clock means. That's 5:10 or 5 to 5. Many students have special needs. And so you need the technology to be able to adjust. So granting extension, double the amount of time. We have several students in Bangladesh. The time zone is different. Well, they will write. I can't force the students to write at 2 in the morning. So I'm adjusting so that they can start early the next day or maybe a little bit earlier. So all those tools should be there. And because of that, students writing a little bit at different time, you don't want the early students to get the marking feedback and the solutions or whatever, and pass those to their friends. So you want to hide this feedback for a while. Everybody does their exam and you say, look, you'll get your result tomorrow at noon. And everybody understands. You need an appropriate question bank. You again have experience in what you're looking for. For us at Lyryx, by the way, we always welcome new suggestions for questions, and we do it for the instructors. We started Lyryx doing mostly assignments, as Tamsin was mentioning, and now we're, of course, a big time into exams, and it's a slightly different type of questions, as I said, between homework and examination. You need a good gradebook. Your integration with your learning management system is very useful. That's desirable, not necessary. It facilitates our job. And if you need help, you need timely support. So this is what we offer at Lyryx, but as I said, there might be other systems who offer the same thing. I just have a picture here, what it looks like. This was my examination this summer. So you can see it's an exam on June 23rd. I had a 3-hour window between 2 and 5 p.m., but it was a 2-hour exam. And I told the students, yeah, you should start in the first hour. And I'm hiding the feedback until after the end date. And then this is the question bank at the bottom. I was teaching linear algebra. Linear algebra is a product we have on our system, not with OpenStax, but separately. This is the tool for extension. So I will just show you a picture. So I put me as a student, and I'm just granting an extension. So La Flamme needs a little bit extra time. So you see the new duration is 150 minutes, so 2 hours and a half. This was just very simple. I could add attempts, or I could change the end date for students. So typical tools. Okay, so my last point is about academic integrity. I will review some of the main points I said. The first thing is this is something new a little bit for me. Academic integrity, of course, is part of our system, but I never made a point to actually educate the students in class about it, and now I do. I post the academic integrity policies of the institutions, and I mention it often during lectures about how important it is, not only just for the exams, but for society in general. So hopefully we start to trust a little bit each other between the instructors and the student. That being said, we need to design the examination environment to be optimal to if you want, or to minimize the chances or the urge for students to cheat. The first one is questions that you can't just Google the answer. Okay, so it's obvious, but there are often this kind of question, and that's some of the examples I showed you. Not only that, but each of those questions should be completely randomized, which means none of us have the same question. So I can't just text my friend and say, what's the answer to number 5? They have no idea, because they don't have my numbers. And if I try to pass my numbers to somebody else, well, they have to redo the entire questions. And then I run out of time, okay? So if you look at the list, I should use my pointer again, but before I said set a generous amount duration so that the students fairly have time to do the exam, but it shouldn't be too long, which means you don't want the students to have time to redo all their questions with their friends. It should be just at the right level. I mentioned lower stake exam again. So several lower stake examination just to minimize the urge to, when I see too much pressure into one exam for cheating. Allow open course material, okay? So there's nothing you can do to prevent it. So yeah, you can tell the students, yeah, your book, you can use your book, you can use your notes. I tell my students you can use a small calculator, but whatever is appropriate for your course, you tell them that. Problem randomization, I mentioned that. Lyryx is not an online proctor, but it has certain features to monitor suspicious activity. If a student logs from a different device, for example, there's no reason that during an exam you're going to try to log in with your phone and try to access other material. So this is the kind of features that there's in the system. And if the system detects that, then the exam is canceled, and the instructor can ask Lyryx for information about what happened to that student. You know, how come there's no mark? And we provide a report to the instructor, who make the final decision about accepting the grade or not. And as I said, if the online examination is not enough for your course, for the objectives of your course, then you should think about additional assessment techniques appropriate to your course. So this is my story. I hope you're passing on a question to Courtney, and I'm open to discuss.
Great, thank you so much, Claude. As Claude just mentioned, please do continue to enter your questions in the question panel on your GoToWebinar control panel. I have a few to get us started that had come in. Let me grab that screen. Okay. Actually, there's one question that came in for OpenStax so far, so I'll get that one out of the way. The other ones are for Lyryx.
Okay.
But there's a question that said, that asks what copyright with OpenStax content that instructors need to be aware of. So all of OpenStax content is openly licensed. Almost all of our books they're all under a Creative Commons license. Most of them are under CC BY. There are two of them, accounting, which is in Lyryx Learning, and calculus. You guys also have calculus, right? Both of them which are in Lyryx. Those two books are CC BY and CSA, which is a slightly different license. But in both cases, that means that you are free to reuse the content. You can modify it, you can use pieces of it, you can put your own content in it, you can mix it up, you can share it out, as long as you provide attribution to OpenStax. So you would just say that the content was developed by OpenStax, and you would link to the original version on OpenStax website, but you can do anything you want with it. The stipulations are a little bit different on those, on calculus and accounting. I think it's mainly that you have to share it with the same, if you share it, you have to share it under that same license. And let's see, and that it shouldn't be shared for commercial purposes. So if you sell it, unless you've created a derivative version of it. But
what's most important for us, Courtney, as instructors, is you can post it in your LMS with no danger. You can give it to your students. They can print what they want, and that's just wonderful.
Yeah, thanks so much for pointing that out. That's all true, and you can put it on your website if you have a teacher website. You can do whatever you need with it. And the point of it is to be as flexible as possible for you so that you can use it however you may need. And because we're a nonprofit, we're able to create it that way because our titles are grant funded. Our partnerships with companies like Lyryx enable us to keep the content up to date online all the time. That's what helps us to fund that maintenance and the development of new editions, which we try to keep to a minimum. So that's only if there's new pedagogical developments, new research, new current events. But yes, so that grant funding enables us to create them under that open license so that you can use them however you need to. Kelly, am I missing anything?
Nope, I think you covered it beautifully. Thanks, Claude.
Cool. Okay, another question that has come in, I'll turn it over to Lyryx now. It says, it seems from your presentation, lockdown browser for an exam isn't something you prefer. If so, why?
Well, there's nothing wrong with a lockdown browser. I prefer to, because there's many ways that students could cheat, and accessing other website, of course, is one of those. I prefer to ask the kind of questions where visiting other website is not helping. Then the lockdown browser is not helpful in that sense. There's nothing to prevent a student from having their friends next to them to help them do the exam. You see, of course, the lockdown browser won't help in that case. So there's all kind of dimensions where you really have to start educating the students about this academic integrity and trusting them to some degree. The fact that the Lyryx system has a little bit of some features that we're watching, the students also know that Lyryx somehow is watching something without knowing exactly what. That plays a certain role. It says, like, I'm not quite sure if my mom and dad are watching here, but I should be careful about what I'm doing. It actually goes a long way.
Awesome. Next question we have, it says, I teach mathematics. On written tests, I will provide partial credit. For example, a student completes a 5-step problem correctly, but somewhere makes a simple arithmetic error. How could this be handled in an online test?
Yes, well, this is a little bit why we started Lyryx, in fact, 20 years ago, because we wanted to get away from right, wrong problems. And we offer part marks when students make certain mistakes, and in fact, it's common mistakes as we call them. So we do our programming using experienced instructors, and we ask them what are the common errors, and we try to implement those in the system, and we give them part marks for those common errors. There's something else that we do on multi-parts question is, if you make a mistake in part A, usually you're toast. You have 0 for all the other parts because you cannot possibly have the right answer if the answers depend on that first question. What we do is a little bit conditional marking. Okay, you got part A wrong, but did you do part B correctly based on that wrong answer? Meaning, did you follow the procedure correctly to answer part B? And that's what we call conditional or consistent marking. And then we don't penalize them twice. So in fact, this is a place where the computer is a little bit better than the human. You saw how complicated those financial statements could be in accounting. If you make a mistake in a value in the first line, the entire financial statement is wrong because all those numbers correspond to each other. But no, Lyryx actually tries to do this consistent marking and just isolate the parts that the students did wrong. It's not perfect. Some parts are better than human, some parts are not as good, but we're trying to go a long way in that direction.
Perfect. We have a couple of questions asking if you worry about your questions becoming available on websites. why couldn't students copy your material and post the questions elsewhere to eventually have your questions available online?
Oh, they're about all on all the website. All the questions in all the books of this planet are probably all on Chegg and other website. There's nothing we can do about that. Again, what you need is a system where this does not help. Lyryx has thousands of questions. If a student learns how to do all those questions, I'm happy because they've learned the material. But when they're going to do their test, all the scenarios and the numbers will all be different. So that particular instance is not on Chegg because there's too many. You know, we're talking about 10 to the power 10 or something like that possibilities. So the students has to redo the problem, and to redo it in the amount of time that you gave them requires that they understood how to solve it. So again, the system becomes self-checking, meaning that I will not find the answer to that question on the web, even though the problem is posted. So.
Got it. All right, next question is this fully accessible and equitable?
No, I will not claim that it is. Again, we do the best we can. We work with an online university in Canada, and we work together to improve the accessibility, especially in the accounting product. You can navigate with a tab, you know, you don't need a mouse, and but no, it's not perfect. If I was blind, it would be very difficult to do any exam online, and I don't have a perfect answer. But we help in many other ways. We try to make our system as accessible as possible. We also often accept scanned answers from blind people. We get their answers, and we enter them back in the system for them. And that's a service that we provide, which means that often if you're blind, you will work with somebody. Anyway, you will have methods to answer the question. You're just not able to put them all in the system. And what we do is they send us the scanned work, and we enter it in the system for them. And that's another dimension that we do. So we try to be as accommodating as possible is the answer, without being perfect.
Thanks for that. Okay, and next question is asks how they can find out about the cost around using Lyryx in their course.
That's Tamsin's department.
That's my department, and I'm muted. For all of our products available, there's a variety of costs. Predominantly, the cost is $39.95. So for all, especially with our math products, they're all $39.95, and it varies based on the subject and also based on whether you are in Canada or the US. So essentially, if you have questions about it, the prices range from $39.95 to $59.95, whereas most of the $59.95 are on some of our more comprehensive products that are available in the US, or pardon me, in Canada. But all of our OpenStax products are at $39.95. So, but you can always email us if you have questions about a particular text that we might offer, or just to confirm the pricing for OpenStax.
Tamsin, how about you mentioned our free lab?
Free lab, yeah. So we actually have a really great option for students to access their Lyryx assignments in campus computer labs for free. So we have a setup that allows for us to just take IP addresses for those computer labs, and if students access their assignments from there, we allow them in for free. Of course, with existing COVID restrictions and whatnot, we aren't able to make this available, but as sort of a stopgap for that, we are offering instructors a certain proportion of their students who specifically make a case for financial need, free access codes. So we leave it up to the instructor to allow for students who truly require the financial assistance to provide access code. So we are, similar to OpenStax in our value, one of our major values being access. So we definitely want to still make that access available despite COVID restrictions. And this is basically the option that we've come up with right now. But should we return to on-campus instruction or predominantly on-campus instruction come the winter or the spring, we will have free lab available again where students can access it for free.
Excellent. All right, guys, I think we're coming towards the end of our time here. We do have a couple more questions, but I just wanted to say, if you have any more questions you want to get out there before we go, please shoot them out now. I don't want to keep you too long, but the next question we have here is, does Lyryx have a way to help instructors to create their own problems rather than using the pre-made problems from the publishers?
Yes, I briefly mentioned that. We offer a full question bank. If you don't find the questions that you like, then all you have to do is submit them to us. Email, a Word file, a spreadsheet, whatever you think, and we implement them for you. Okay, so you are the instructors, you are the expert at teaching at your subject. You are probably not full programmers. We have programmers on our side, so we need the information from you, and we do the programming. As long as you don't mind having the question available to everybody. It benefits everybody at the end.
Excellent.
I just wanted to jump in and say that on a lot of our products, as compared to some other online homework providers, a lot of the questions within our platform are different from those that are within the textbook. So we don't necessarily mirror all the same questions that are available as like the problems and exercises, while our questions will have basically the same structure for grading and the, that sort of thing, any way that the questions are done, but they're not an exact replica of what is inside the textbook. So.
Got it. And then I think this will probably be our last question, but we have a question about how do you use the testing features differently when you are teaching in person?
I've been, of course, using Lyryx for quite some time. So for me, it's quite standard, but it depends which courses I teach. This is where the big difference is. In the first year, I know that the students are very young. They need a lot of practice to learn the material. They have not learned to do this on their own. So I love the technology that provides so much practice to the students, which I would not be able to do as a human. As the courses progress at the higher level, this is where the level of technology is not catching up. There's no system now that will do that will correctly mark a proof in math or an essay in any kind of other course. So this is where the instructor has a much bigger role. So as again, depending on your course and your students, you have to find the right balance.
Got it. All right, I think we're going to wrap up for today. I want to thank everyone again for joining us on the webinar today. Also want to say a big thank you to Kelly, Tamsin, and Claude for what you shared with us. I really appreciated it. And Claude, it was really interesting to hear your firsthand experience with this transition and what you took into account when forming the standards for the online testing in your remote class. So thanks again. To everyone else who is a guest today on the webinar, both us at OpenStax and at Lyryx, we want to be a resource for you and we're here to help. We know that this is a really hectic time still in higher ed. So If there are any other resources, whether it be webinars or advice, best practices, that would be useful to you, please do feel free to reach out. I'm actually going to go ahead and type email addresses you can use to contact here in the chat box. I wish I could talk and type at the same time, but I've learned that I can't. So I'm going to take a brief moment. You guys, what's the best email address for me to give to them for Lyryx? Tamsin, you're actually still on mute.
Yeah. It's info@lyryx.com.
Great.
I'm sad I cannot see everybody, but I would like to thank everybody, and don't hesitate to get in touch.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.